Hi everybody, my very first live with chat. I'm so excited but terrified at the same time. So what does everyone think of this week's events with the Summer Wells case? It has been a doozy. My head just feels like it's going to explode. But I'm thinking there was an accident and Candus has rang Don, but not because she couldn't find Summer, but because something had happened to Summer at home. And Don's came home and collected Summer and took her away. And that's when he's rang 911. We still don't know whether she herself rang 911. That hasn't come out yet. So, yeah, I've been a little bit upset as well since watching, although I respect them, I think they're just fabulous law enforcement officers and they've done a great job in their careers and everything, but the way they criticised what Chris Donahue is doing with the interview room interviews with Candus and Hunter, I think it's so sad that they've turned on him and given him a hard time about it. I'm going to play a bit of it, so let me know what you think.
Everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff After Hours, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD. I retired as a detective sergeant out of Manhattan North Homicide Squad, one of the premier homicide squads in the city of New York. With me today, I've retired second grade detective Phil Grimaldi from the 60 Squad in the Intelligence Division. How you doing, Phil?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me back, Bill.
It's great to have you guys here. And of course, everyone's favorite attorney, retired police officer, and now defense attorney, Joe Murray, former boxer, all-around handsome guy. Joe, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Hey, Philly.
You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. And like when I read some of the chat, and I know that most of the people in the chat, they're not professional law enforcement personnel, and a lot of them are, they're YouTube fans, and they like to watch these shows and stuff. And I just like to let people know we're not going to solve this case from sitting in our armchair here, like watching a football game and said you woulda, coulda, shoulda, an armchair quarterback. But what we're saying is from our experience and from a police perspective. And some people in the chat have accused us of being heartless. I want to tell you a quick story. When I had the A team of Manhattan North Homicide Squad, I got a call one Saturday morning that there was a dead 3-month-old at St. Luke's Hospital. Now, 3-month-olds aren't supposed to die. So I went there with my whole team, and we get there, and all the patrol officers from the 3O were mostly females. They were crying over this 3-month-old baby. It was very emotional. And they allowed the mother to hold the baby in the emergency room. And I right away was very concerned about that because, in essence, the baby is a crime scene. And I asked the nurse to very gently take the baby away from the mother. And simultaneously, I had my detectives remove the mother and father to the 3O detective squad. One of my most best interviewers, Joe the Lip, and he got the name the Lip because he never shuts up. He was really grilling the doctor. Is there any signs of blunt trauma? Is there any signs of asphyxia? Do you think this is a natural death? But even to the point where the doctor got very defensive, you know. Long story short, we went back to the 3O squad. A half hour later, the mother and father confessed to killing the baby. They smothered the baby to death. So the mean, bad homicide sergeant had no feelings, but ordered this to happen. No, I was doing my job. And our job is to investigate murder. And that turned out to be a murder. So you folks in the chat that think we have no soul or we have no heart, no, we definitely have a heart. We've been all over the city of New York. We've all been 9/11 responders. We pulled bodies
That's a
the
good.
turf at the World Trade Center, Ground Zero. We pulled bodies out of fresh kills. We've seen more death than any of you, what do you call them? You keyboard warriors out there. All right. So I don't like to be accused of not having heart. But having said that, look, there's a lot of things wrong with this case. And one of the first things, and you say anything about the timeline, everyone thinks they have the timeline down. No, you don't have the timeline down. You have the timeline down according to H and according to Candace, who both have been shown to be lying at different times. The only people that I hope have the timeline down to a science are the police, the TBI, and the FBI, that they have the timestamps, the real timestamps that gets the timeline down to a science so that it can be used to refute the stories that we're hearing all over social media. But right now, we definitely do not have the timeline down. So when all you armchair quarterbacks and all you social justice warriors out there are saying, "Oh, they don't know what they're talking." No, we know exactly what we're talking about because we've been there 100 times. So I find it a little disconcerting that after 43 days, there is no true, solid, rock hard timeline. Phil, what do you think?
Well, Bill, I'd first like to comment on that little story that you told. I think that hits right to the heart of when you're a detective in the squad, or you're a supervisor, or you're assigned to a case, you're the advocate for the victim. And that's exactly what you were doing when you asked for that woman to give the baby over to the nurses, because there was a possibility there could have been foul play in that case. And sure enough, there was. And you were advocating for that victim. That little 3-month-old baby was a victim. And that's what we do. We advocate for the victim, and we speak for the dead in a lot of cases. And in this case, we're trying to speak for Summer Wells. What I mean by that is we're not going to solve the case, as you said, but we can put reasonable expectation on the things that were already done and explain them. And we can also give our opinions on things that we think should be done. And we don't have access to the case folder, so we don't know exactly what is being done. But you brought up the time frame on the day that little Summer went missing. Now we have the information from Candace and from H and from Don, and it was reported at 18:30 hours on the 15th of June, which is 6:30 p.m. And we think, based on their interviews and the things that they've stated, that there was possibly a 4-hour window or less that she was seen alive. Now, just because they showed that video of us sleeping in the back of the car, and they say the picture that was shown where you showed it to the medical examiner, or Duty Ron showed it to the medical examiner, and we all agreed that she was alive in the picture. We don't know for certain that that video or that picture was taken on the day in question. The cell phone technology would have to back that up, would have to corroborate it. So those are the things that we would expect as law enforcement officers that the FBI, the TBI, and the local police would be doing. She gave statements that they were in the hospital from 8 o'clock in the morning with the grandmother. There needs to be a follow up at the hospital with video cameras and interviews of the people at the hospital, which I'm sure were done. And then there was also, they went to several stores, they were at the watering hole. All of those things need to be backed up. Now, if they did all of those things and they're certain and they're comfortable that they were telling the truth about that, then there's a 4-hour window that we think that she was missing, that the missing took place. Now, to further go into Candace's statement, she said the kid was only out of her sight for 2 minutes. Now, the videos that were recently posted on YouTube, we saw the interview of Candace and we saw the interview of H. I think what that did for me showed me the inside of what was going on at the location. Now, one of the things that jumped out at me right away when we saw the video of the home, of the location, of the house, the dogs immediately started barking when the interviewer pulled up in his car. That told me that the chances that someone snuck onto the property and abducted Summer are very slim, because there was a lot of activity going on. It was between 6:15, let's say, and 6:30 when they called the police, according to what they said. So there was a lot of activity. There were the mother was in the trailer, Candace was in the trailer, went into the house. She only had her eyes off of Summer for 2 minutes, but there were the brothers were in the house, and they said she went down the basement. So that would mean that she would have had to go down the basement. Either somebody was waiting for her in the basement and took her out of there without being alerted by the animals, by the dogs. Very, very unlikely. So we are working with a time frame that we think, but like you said, Bill, we really don't know what the time frame is. All of those things could have taken place the day before, let's say. We don't know for certain. That's why they need to do corroboration and follow-up interviews to find out if that timeline is good or not.
Well, it's funny that none of like I only trust the timeline if it comes from law enforcement. I'm not trusting a timeline that's coming from YouTube. So if law enforcement put out a time-stamped timeline, then I would accept that as gospel. But right now, I think the timeline is all over the place and there's tremendous inconsistencies. Joe, what do you think about that?
I love what you guys are saying, and part of what I believe is happening is that there is integrity in this investigation. They should not be revealing these exact details, and I look at it as a good thing that we don't have that ironclad timeline. It's part of the reason why law enforcement does what they do when they interview people of interest or witnesses. They do it separately. They never interview someone in front of another potential witness. Why? Because they want to know and they want to make sure the information they're getting from that particular witness is coming from that particular witness. It's not something that they heard another person say. But when you allow these statements to be heard by other witnesses, what does it do? It puts the other person on guard. Wait a minute, this person's contradicting me when I talk about going here or doing that. Now, if they ever were re-interviewed by law enforcement, they're going to have some canned answer ready to explain away why this is an inconsistency. We don't want that in law enforcement. We want to be able to confront them with inconsistencies, either witness, and then, potentially Don looking at these two witnesses, H and Candace, when he gets questioned, what's his story going to be now after he gets to watch those two interviews?
Right.
It kind of takes away the credibility and integrity of the statements, and you really take weight away from them. You can't rely on them so much when they are collaborating in essence.
Yeah, I mean, the integrity of a witness is that's why we interview witnesses separately. They never get interviewed together. But doing it, every witness, and this
gone
one
now. It's
gone.
now
Yeah, because they've all heard what the others have said. Yeah, and it sort of takes away the integrity of the investigation. And I'm surprised that the police didn't bring her back in to re-interview. The other thing is I don't understand why they're so relying upon polygraphs. That's never been my experience in 27 years on the police department and 16 in the detective bureau and 10 in homicide. I never saw us use a polygraph once, not once. But it seems like they're relying on this device that's, as you know, not acceptable in court. It's not admissible in court. Yeah,
it's definitely fallible. Human error, even in the person administering it, may commit some kind of error. It's just not reliable. It's not admissible in court. It is a tool to be used in appropriate circumstances, like even in my case, where I try to use it to vet out something, prove something. In a lot of these cases, there's some really unusual facts. When somebody relates something to you and you go, excuse me, what are you saying happened? I want to test those things out, before I put myself out trying to put forth this theory that, is on its face hard to believe. So I'll do that and I'll test that out and I'll share that with a prosecutor if, it's appropriate in the discussion. So it is a tool to be used, but nothing should be used like that as ironclad, that this is exact science.
All right, one thing I want to bring up too. I want to bring up investigative direction, because anyone knows that's ever worked homicide before, that's important to go in a direction. And if that direction proves not to be feasible, you change direction. But I haven't changed direction since the beginning of this. I still think the answer lies within Candus and Don and the grandmother. And throw H back in there. I think they know what happened here. I really believe that. And in their circle, the answer lies within their circle. And I haven't deviated from that. A lot of people, and this doesn't mean anything in regards to the investigation because people on the internet aren't uh, consulted when they make an arrest on a case. But a lot of people are being fooled by emotion, and that shouldn't come into this. What should come into this is investigative steps and checking evidence, checking backgrounds, interviews, interrogation, marrying the electronic evidence with the verbal evidence and the statements. Phil, I could see your brain is moving fast.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this recent interviews that we saw on the internet on YouTube. There was obviously inconsistencies between H and Candace. One of which was H said that Candace went into a store, got twisted tea, and gave it to him, and he drank it. Now she denied that. So one of the two is not telling the truth about that thing. There were some other inconsistencies that about the timeline, which stores they went to first. Now, Joe had brought up a point the other day about how witnesses could be incorrect about things, maybe not lying or deceptive, but they were incorrect. So I'm okay with that. He said they went to this store first, and she said they went to the other store first. That's okay. But her main theory to what happened just does not make sense. She's only leaving a 2-minute window where she said she had eyes off of Summer. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Well, we'll go with 5 or even 10 minutes. But the theory is not plausible based on now we got an insight. We saw the location. The YouTube video that we saw, they walked through the property, and so many things were revealed by that video that their story just doesn't make sense. The information that they're given is really not plausible at this time. And the interviewer even asked, "What do you think happened?" And she says that she states about sexual predators in the area on the sex registry. There's 8 minutes away and things like that. I just don't see that being the cause of what happened to Summer. I can't buy it at this point. It's very, very, very slim, I think, because as we saw when he went onto the property, the dogs began to bark. And I think that, they would have been raised up about that right away. If she was so concerned about where Summer was when she had eyes off for 2 minutes, if they heard barking or there was a vehicle on the property, I think they would have been alerted to that.
Well, we'll get to the walkthrough of the property with Chris. And one of the things that you notice immediately is they had 13 dogs. 13 dogs. So I don't know if the abduction theory is possible when you have 13 dogs getting raised. If she walked out of that, out of the basement, they would have been raised up. Heard the dogs barking, or they would have followed her. So 13 dogs, not that's why I totally don't buy the abduction theory. And even
can I make one other point? One other
go
point.
ahead. Go ahead.
The whole abduction thing, I think, is like so minuscule at this point. And I said it in the last episode. The FBI, the TBI, and the local police are involved in this thing. If they put credence into an abduction, I think they would have went public with that in some way, shape, or form, and they would have alerted the people in the area that yes, there was an abduction. Now, there's more than one reason for that. Obviously, to protect your children, keep an eye on them, but to make people alert. Something happened in this area. Maybe there was something you noticed that was strange or unusual. So I think they would have gone with that. That's where Joe was talking about keeping things close to the vest. They would have probably had a media, a press conference and alerted the people in that area if they thought that was plausible right from the beginning.
Duty Ron, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Folks, if you like this show, Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. We're working hard, trying to work. I'm bringing on these amazing guests. We even got an attorney here, and he gets like $300 an hour. so I can't pay this guy. So
It's
you know, I'm
great.
bringing him on 500, whatever he's getting.
That's the
It's 500.
discounted rate.
That's the New York rate, the 550 an hour, whatever they get.
That's
Joe,
the
you know,
off the cuff rate.
you're off the cuff rate, yeah. The so investigative direction. You want to comment about that?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. I think you're 100% right. Right from the beginning, all eyes are on Candace because of her statements, because of her state of mind and intoxication. There are a lot of red flags that came up with Candace, and I think that would have been the direction to go, and then go outwards. But just talking about what Philly was mentioning, uh, she created this timeline. We're not talking about what you're talking about, the timestamp police timeline. Her timeline in her statement gives her 2 to 5 minutes of when she lost sight of Summer and discovered her missing. That's unbelievable. Now, when you think about it, she's saying that she was standing at a position somewhere between mom's trailer and her, I guess, front or back door. I couldn't tell. Where she calls out to the boys, "Hey, take care of Sissy. She's on her way in." So you have to think that Summer didn't go right downstairs. She came in and she was with the boys and said hello. But even if it was just another couple seconds and then she went downstairs, they matter of factly told mom that she went downstairs. So the timeline shrinks even more, and I have to believe that Candace was very candid and gave a lot of interviews that I'm sure she gave permission, and the boys were interviewed, and the police and FBI have their feelings about it, whether or not that's accurate or something they're going to go by. We don't know that, and we shouldn't know that. So, but even going with her timeline, what's the possibility? And I love doing this. I do it in all my cases. Just in slow motion, try to play this out. And sometimes I even act it out. When I have a case with a car stop, I'll actually do it. And I'll read the testimony and I'll hear what the officer said and what, in any event, do it here. Do it right here. So she supposedly climbed down those stairs into her bedroom. And then at some point, she tried to get out the door, and she was saying even the door might be difficult for her to unlock and push through. But let's say she does all this. What does she do? She goes outside. Both Don and Candace have said she would never leave the property. She knows we've told her about snakes and animals. And I have to believe, having 2 kids of my own, if I was telling them about, snakes and other animals, they would be afraid to stray off because of that. I believe that. And both parents believe that. So then what else could have happened? If you're going with an abduction theory, somebody had to be laying in wait right in the back, hidden in the trees, waiting for her to pop out by herself. Now think about it. They had to, unless they were coordinating with someone to know when she was going to be home that day, they had to be waiting there a long time with all of those dogs around. How is it possible? How is it possible a stranger would be there laying in the weeds, and then when the person came out, the dogs wouldn't be all over that person? So just play it out again. Okay, what is that person going to do? And then go back to that other issue where I think in H's interview, he says a phone call came in from Don, and Don talked about there were guys around the house that were touching the kids or something into that nature. If that's true, and there was somebody sleeping in the shed or staying in the shed, then we have a suspect. We have somebody that the police and the FBI could have followed through with and checked that out. It's 40 something days later. I'm sure they've done that. And that went to a dead end. I'm just trying to play out any scenario that would make sense given her timeline, and nothing fits. And I have to go back to, as you pointed out, it's very possible that she never made it home.
Yeah, that's been my feelings all along, that she never has ever made it home. And so
Just
then the
so
then the
unlike,
timeline could end at 2:30, 3 o'clock,
yeah,
because
it's
somewhere
such a
along there she never made it home. And that's where I want the timeline to be, just made much more stringent, because right now it's just all over the place, and it hasn't been verified to shrink it down to the when was she missing. I don't buy the 6:30 at night, and just as I don't buy that she called her husband first instead of 911 first. I just don't. And then there was another a tape that I recently heard. Again, I don't know where it came from, where a dispatcher said that she was on a walk and she discovered her daughter missing. So
yeah.
all of these different factors that again aren't vetted, so I'm not going to put them down with a stamp and say they're true. But there's a lot
Can
of
I
things that
piggyback one thing that Joe said, Bill?
absolutely. Thank you, Uno Who. Appreciate the 14.99 super chat. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
That's okay. Joe made such a great point about delaying in wait. And now just think about it. It's 6:30 in the evening when they notice I'm missing, and it's only a couple of minutes. So that would mean that it was daylight before when this alleged person could have been laying in wait. And then how does that person know the exact moment that she's going to come out that basement door? Like, first of all, why would she even go out that door? It seemed very unlikely. And that person just happens to be there in that moment. It's just really, really unlikely. And I think that Joe, you made a great case for that.
I wanted to now we're talking about investigative direction. Of course, we've touched upon the timeline and everything. And one of the things that, again, we're not privy to is the electronic devices that warrants have been obtained to, the cell phone data, the computer data. They've taken, as H even said, they took everyone's phones. And for you folks in the chat that asked how long does it take, it could take 3 weeks, 4, 5 weeks, could take 6 weeks. The telephone company of these carriers, they're not in a hurry to do this for you, right? And on a case like this, they should make it a priority. But each phone, you have to go to that separate carrier, and there has to be a search warrant issued for that carrier. So none of this stuff happens quickly. And then they also have to include uh, the cell data, the cell site data, the text messages, the voicemail. So each of those things have to be included on the search warrant. So as I said, none of this
They
stuff.
probably did a full phone extraction, taking everything, pictures, videos, contacts. They extracted everything out of the phone.
100%. Because you'd hate to write up a warrant and say, "Oh, I forgot this. I forgot to
Yeah.
ask for that."
Right.
And for you folks also, this stuff is not free to a police department. When I was on the job, it could cost anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a day, and I'm sure it's more now. And because you're the police department, you don't get it for free. They say, no, okay, it'll be, you want the whole weekend? Okay, that'll be $1,200, right? There's nothing that's going to be free. So
Yeah, there's another part of it too. The telephone companies have to give over this information, and then if it turns out to be very, very important information on a prosecution, that telephone company has to have a representative that's going to be able to testify to the exactness of that information that they gave over to the police. So there's cost in this, and those experts will get paid a lot of money. So there's big cost in these things. And if you dump a cell tower, and I know this from a previous case from 5 years ago, a cell tower has thousands and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of records on it, depending on where the cell tower is. So sometimes they might try to get all the information at a cell tower. That's every phone in the area that's hitting that cell tower. That I know is about $10,000 and up to dump a cell tower. So, you're talking about high cost. That's probably why the FBI is involved in this case, and the TBI as well. I don't think the budget of the small police department is going to be able to handle something like that. But you make a great point, Bill, that all of these things have to, they take time, and they have to be looked at and examined, and, put up against the statements that were previously made.
we speak a lot about the technology that we're used to, and I don't know if, in fact, the small town police department is trained in how to do some of these things that we take for granted. being big city police. I'm sure that the FBI and the TBI, they're versed in it, they're trained in it. For you guys listening, the New York City Police Department has a unit that's called TARU, which stands for Technical Assistance Response Unit. And they do a lot of our telephone work. They do a lot of our computer work. So they're experts at extracting that type of evidence. So all of these things, the New York City Police Department is so big, it has separate units for crime scene, separate units for emergency service. So all of those things, it's a very big, and again, it stands for Technical Assistance Response Unit. Joe, you seem like you want to say something.
I just can't get away from this video that Chris did, and one of the parts of that, when he was on the property, he asked her about the shed, right? And she got a little, protective of it. Well, no, it's kind of a mess, and I don't want you to get hurt. He was just going to look in it. She didn't even want him to look in it. Now, you might say, okay, it might have some, stuff in there. It's embarrassing or whatever. Then she brings him right downstairs to her bedroom with the mattress on the floor. And
Joe, could you hold this? Because I want to get into this more deeply.
Sure.
But we got to go to a break, and then we'll
Gotcha.
get deeply into this. Folks, Police Coffee is an officer-owned business dedicated to crafting the finest coffees and blends. One of the things is to provide you with the freshest coffee available. Each batch is roasted fresh by people who know what it means to stay vigilant. And our specialty coffees do not waste one drop when flavor is concerned. Our coffee is some of the best you'll find, but it also helps serve an important cause, giving back to our community. 50% of the profits goes towards helping family members of police officers who fell in the line of duty. To order from Police Coffee, you just go on policecoffee.com, go to their website. They have 7 different types of coffee and loads of other products. And if you use the code OTC, standing for off the cuff 10, you get a 10% discount. So go on the site, policecoffee.com, and order some coffee. It's a great product, and you're also doing a great thing for police families who are getting 50% of the profits for this. Let me just get up here for a second, you guys.
If you're in need of a real estate agent in the Myrtle Beach area, Carol Waters is your girl. Carol Waters and her husband, Rob Mahan, who's a former NYPD FDNY fire department in New York City. They're both $1 million sellers down in Myrtle Beach. You can reach Carol or her husband at 914-261-6681. That's 914-261-6681. Or you can go to her email, carolwaterssellsmb@gmail.com. That's carolwaterssellsmb@gmail.com. If you have need for a real estate agent in that area, give them a call. They'll definitely help you out and mention police off the cuff.
I've never had the subject to his own commercial. Go ahead, Joe.
If you're ever in need of a good attorney, Joe Murray is your guy. Joe Murray proudly supports Police Off the Cuff, and I support all things law enforcement. If you need an attorney, I'm your guy, and I'm happy to help you. Please call me at 646-838-1702. Please feel welcome to check out my website, jmurray-law.com. Thank you very much.
That was great. Michael O'Keefe is a retired NYPD first-grade detective, and he's the author of 3 novels. One, Shot to Pieces, A Reckoning in Brooklyn, and Burnt to a Crisp. Order his books on Amazon.com or his website, michaelokeefeauthor.com. Michael O'Keefe was a police officer in the 3-4 precinct in 1992 who got in a violent altercation with a drug dealer named Kiko Garcia. They were involved in an armed combat, and luckily Michael walked away alive, and Kiko Garcia lost the battle and lost his life. The book, Shot to Pieces, is somewhat autobiographical, telling partly that story. So if you want some great books to read on the beach, Shot to Pieces, A Reckoning in Brooklyn, and Burnt to a Crisp. Amazon.com or michaelokeefeauthor.com. Okay, guys, let's get back to the search. of the house, not really the search, the tour of the house. Uh, Go ahead, Joe. You were talking about it before.
Before we even got into the house, I was riveted by the fact that Chris wanted to check out the shed, and kudos to Chris for having that investigative mind. Hey, what's this? What's that? I want to take a look. Well, she got very concerned about allowing him to look into that shed, and that should have just raised the hair on the back of his neck. And he, you know, decided not to pursue that. I think he could have pursued that a little harder. But as we learned, she brought him in right after that, brought him down to her bedroom in the basement, and had no problem showing him the interior of the house and the condition it was in. But it really just bothered me when we talk about that shed. Now, here's the issue. I mean, Chris was probably thinking, I know the police have searched this place, but we're talking a considerable amount of time later after the incident. I don't know if they've been back there since the initial search, and it might have been, important to see what was in there. So that's something that really bugged me when I saw that, and I wish he would have took it a step further.
Joe, as everyone knows, I was a NYPD police sergeant for 22 years out of my 27 years, and I was a sergeant that long because I couldn't pass the lieutenant's test. There was a famous cop in the 2-3 precinct who used to always say, "You know why I'm not a chief?" And I would say, "Why?" Because that damn sergeant's test. That was Lee Pachter, who you know. I always give everyone that funny joke. But
good.
anyway, one of your responsibilities as a sergeant, obviously, is to go to homes of suspected child abuse. And the NYPD calls it neglected, abused, or maltreated children. And if I would have responded to this home on a job, I would have removed those kids just based on what I saw in that house. I mean, there seemed to be wires all over the place. It would seem like you could get electrocuted. And I'm not going to talk about her housekeeping, which didn't exist, but it just didn't seem like a safe place. And when I also heard her say that her 9-year-old son, Waylon, sleeps next to Summer, her 5-year-old daughter, to me, that's not okay. That's not an okay thing. And I can't wait to see someone in the chat say, "Oh, that's normal." No, it's not normal. That's not okay. So I'm just saying, maybe I'm getting off the subject a little bit, but if I was called to that home on any type of job, I would have removed those kids. And it took CPS, Child Protective Services, what, I don't know, 30 something days, 37, 38 days to remove these kids. I think they may have removed the kids based on hearing these shows on YouTube. People saying, why are these kids still in this house?
Absolutely, Bill. I think you're making a great point. There was something else that jumped out at me about that interview. Walk through the house, whatever you want to call it, the interview when they were down by the water hole, as well as in the house. Her demeanor seemed very, he was almost like walking her down the path of her becoming emotional, and she never did. She seemed to be a matter of factly about the whole thing. And then she made a statement when she was talking about time. I really don't. He asked her about, well, what time did you leave the house? Well, I really don't know the time. I don't pay attention to time. But yet she's very exact on she only took eyes off of Summer for about 2 minutes. So, I mean, she's kind of contradicting herself. Her demeanor through the whole thing. I mean, he even brought up when they were in the house, oh, this must be the boys' room, or this is where the boys were. I don't even want to talk about that. And she didn't even get emotional about it, bring it up, discuss it, nothing. I mean, you would think that she would say, oh, they took my boys away from me for no reason or something. She didn't even go there. So the whole thing was, I don't know, it was kind of cold to me. If my 5-year-old kid was missing, I can't even tell you how I would be. And this is 40 days in, and she was just to a matter of factly for me with through the whole thing, walking through the house. I mean, they went into her bedroom. And she was saying, yeah, these are her toys and this and that. I mean, wouldn't that be cause for some type of an emotional outbreak, an outburst from the mother?
Philly,
It just seemed
100%.
odd to me.
100%. DMB O'Shea, thank you for the $5 super chat. And DMB O'Shea says, shed means nothing. I wouldn't want to broadcast my husband's tools all over the internet for someone to see and then come to my shed and steal
She
them.
brought everything else out. What the hell? That doesn't
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sense.
exactly. I
I'm
don't think
sorry.
she was that
doesn't make
concerned
sense.
with that, but thank you for your comment. Factual breakdown. A really great group of well-mannered, high-achieving kids who respect their teachers and respect our wonderful police. You're becoming a rock star with them. I don't know if that was meant for me or Duty Ron. Folks, all you folks coming to our show from far away, identify yourself, where you're coming from. I see Australia. I've seen England. It's great to have you on the show. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. And we also have a Patreon. If you'd like to join us and get content that we don't give to everyone, you can join our Patreon. There's the link to it, www.patreon.com/police off the cuff. We have 3 levels. For $7 a month, you're the bucket. For $9 a month, you can polish my rack. And for $11 a month, the premiere, you can be dipped in butter. And that's the premiere one. So that's our Patreon. And, we're also on Instagram. You want to contact us on Instagram or make a comment. We're all over the internet. Getting to, we're talking about the house, but we also, let's back up a little bit. The 3 boys were removed. Now, that is very significant. All right. Now, we don't know if CPS removed them because maybe they got nervous about all the stuff they were hearing on the internet, on YouTube. Like, why are these kids still in that house? But don't forget, those 3 boys are very, very important witnesses. They can either corroborate that Summer was, yeah, she was home, or she never was home. Because now they can be interviewed minus their parents leering over them or feeling threatened by their parents. Go ahead, Joe. I could see you got something to say.
Yeah, I definitely do. And, talking about well, first of all, let me address the CPS thing. I really do think it was just them catching up with everything that's been reported on shows like yours and Duty Ron and Chris. I think they were just catching up and realizing, hey, I better do something. My job is on the line here. So that their resources are just so limited to begin with. So I don't think it's that significant that they removed the kids. I'm glad they did, but I don't think it had to do with the police uncovering something that they shared with the family, CPS. And that would be in the petition, and they would have notice of it right away. I don't think that's the case. There may be information that they're aware of, but I don't think that's the case. Anyway, getting back to the video itself and what was happening, I just want to point something out. And I love cops. And the minute I saw Chris, we actually were on Duty Ron's show together, and I love what he's doing. I saw his thing, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. Him and Karen getting out there in the RV, going to crime scenes, somebody with his experience, beautiful. But then he just crossed the line with these interviews. Now, I want to bring something up. One of your commenters or chat people made a comment about the shed, that she didn't want to reveal the tools in the shed because they become a target, right? Well, we know from Chris's editorial of his video that he edited a great deal of the videos on his own. He didn't air them in their entirety. So he could have taken that out, or he could have just said, I won't video it to go in there. So I disagree with that. And I also want to point out, if you're worried about tools, how come nobody was worried about H? When Chris is interviewing a minor who has special needs, this just drove me crazy. And then he has him out a drug dealer on the video. Who cares? He bleeped out his name. Law enforcement is going to get that. He outed this drug dealer on a video that he put out on the internet. This 15-year-old kid now, and then you heard about throwing gang signs. He just put a bullseye on this kid's back. I don't know why he didn't see that. We never out confidential informants or people that give information. We never do that. We protect them. He could have edited that out. What I'm really upset is he did edit that video, but he left that in there. Why would he do that? This kid has a target on his back. Any gangster would look at that as him being a rat, and they would earn their stripes by going after him. I am so upset by that. And then I think he said it was a compilation of 4 hours that he edited down to 1 hour. And you couldn't take that piece out? You want to show everyone that this kid H is a rat and he's given up a drug dealer? I cannot believe that. It infuriates me. So I didn't come on your show to do this, and I apologize. But just as a former law enforcement officer and an attorney who deals with this, I'm a criminal attorney. We deal with confidential informants all the time. This is a 15-year-old special needs kid, and you outed him for giving up a drug dealer. What are you thinking about?
You know, Joe, he probably didn't even do it intentionally, the kid. He's a 15-year-old kid and he's special needs, as you said. You know, he might have forgot the camera was even on and just started talking to this guy, you know, who's a stranger from the area. So it's really, it was a poor choice. Absolutely. I agree with you, Joe. It's outrageous,
it's not a
actually. The
matter
whole
of
thing.
whether he has a right to do it. He says, well, investigative journalists do this. Yes, they have a First Amendment right to go there and do it. But as a former detective, knowing what you know and have seen, how could you? How could you do that? It's so horrible. If anyone, some nitwit journalist does it, I can excuse away he doesn't realize what he's doing. I can't do that with Chris McDonough. I just can't, and I'm so furious about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a little surprised that these interviews are going out because these are all principles. These are all principles in this case, and their information really should be kept confidential. Just the police should know about it. That's all I'm going to say about it. Bella Chihuahua Hernandez Miller, thank you for the $4.99 super chat, folks. We all our goal in this case, obviously, the best case scenario would be that Summer is recovered alive. But we don't like the way that this case presents itself. And a lot of the people interviewing Candus and Don, they're having this sympathetic tenor toward them. And, you know, this is a potential homicide investigation. It's not about sympathy towards them. It's about finding out the truth and finding out who's responsible for the disappearance of a 5-year-old child named Summer Wells. That's what as I said again, we're giving our opinions from a police perspective, and we're on our soapbox. We're not going to solve this case. It's not our job, but we're just commenting on the investigation. Phil, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback something Joe said with regard to confidential informants or witnesses. I mean, that's like number one. In my office, when I worked in Brooklyn, we had some interaction with organized crime, with the mafia. And there were, you know, some informants that compromised over time. And one of them was killed that I can remember exactly. And there was, we had joint investigation with the NYPD, the DEA, and the FBI. And there was an agent from the DEA that was so upset about it, he actually retired because this informant was killed. And it wasn't because of anything that law enforcement did. It turned out there was someone that gave information to organized crime that had nothing to do with with the FBI or the NYPD or the DEA. So I think you make a great point, Joe, that you really have an obligation, if you're going to be a stand-up detective and a stand-up investigator, to protect those people and keep their information confidential as much as you can. So it was probably an oversight on his part, but not good, totally not good. Getting back to the investigation a little bit, there was something about Candus in that video where she mentioned about She went to take a polygraph the first time, and I know, Bill, you don't like the whole polygraph thing, but she said that she didn't take it the first time because she was nervous or whatever. It sounded like she, was too, maybe she was too high or too drunk or whatever it was. And then she says she passed the second one. We don't know that to be true till law enforcement says, yes, she took a polygraph and she passed it. And that's not even 100%. We know they're not admissible in court. I just want to point that out. Those are her words. We don't know that that's true. And everything that's coming out of her mouth needs to be corroborated. Everything.
People in the chat are even saying, and look, when I investigated homicides, investigated shootings, it's very difficult to get people to cooperate because the old thing in the hood, snitches get stitches. So to out a witness is one of the most dangerous things you can do in the homicide investigation. And I guess enough said. I'm not looking to beat the guy down. God's Country 16. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Something is up with Candus and H. The way she dresses and behaves like a teen boy screams grooming behavior. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that are wrong with this, and we want to talk about what our experience, where it brings us, where we think this investigation is going. Not, we're not into what people are wearing or this person said that, and because nothing right now is vetted. That we can't say concretely, like we started this show with the timeline. No one has a solid timeline because it's all coming from the mouth of 2 or 3 or 4 potential liars. So till we get the absolute truth vetted, we can't give a timeline that we say is concrete. This is what happened at this hour and that hour and that hour. We can't do that yet. Here's another one that is another investigative resource that we've basically heard nothing about, the grandmother. Why haven't we heard anything from the grandmother? Has she been interviewed? And look, I would think, the police would have interviewed her because she's a huge part of this. The whole story about planting the flowers, which I don't buy that story for one bit either. The grandma's an integral part of that. And, again, we haven't, where is the grandmother right now? We haven't heard anything about the grandmother. Bill, what do you think?
Well, the grandmother obviously is very important in this investigation because she was home and there was talk that, she was in the hospital earlier that day. And, one of the comments that I read from the show the other day, and they made a great point. They said that she went to the hospital and then they went and brought the prescription for painkillers to the Walgreens. So when they picked up those painkillers and they obviously admitted to, according to H, drinking twisted teas. So maybe there was some ingestion of these painkillers and drinking. So a lot of things could have happened, But going back to what we were talking about with Chris's show, I want to point out something. We're not criticizing Chris or what he does in his show. As a matter of fact, we gave him the benefit of the doubt in the last episode that we did about a week ago with Duty Run, where we said, we're certain that he got permission from the investigators to do these interviews or whatever. So him being a professional, former homicide detective, he obviously would know better, and we gave him the benefit of the doubt. So there's no criticism here. We're pointing out what we would do, our opinions as far as what we would do in the case, and trying to keep integrity in the case, I think is, obviously very important. Going back to the grandmother, yeah, I'd love to hear what she had to say. There would have been a lot of different angles. I would have asked her about, what happened that day. Obviously, all of those different things. And, how did she feel about the way Summer was being raised? And then I would try to corroborate the statements that she made with friends of hers. She has to have other family members or friends. And then Joe pointed out something, and it was brought up in the interview that was on Chris's show. The sister was missing too, Candace's sister. So, like you said, Joe, lightning striking twice. The whole thing just it really doesn't sit well with me. There's something obviously much more here, and I think that, of course, we don't have the intimate knowledge of the case by having the case folder. There may be some tremendous lies that they've already corroborated that people told lies, and they're just not moving further with any criminal charges or anything like that because there's no remains found and like that. They don't know the whereabouts of someone yet. So they're moving methodically. I'm hoping and I'm praying that they're doing all these things, and I'm hoping and praying that there's a much better direction than we know from the media.
Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, Harlem Raiders, a superstar NYPD legend. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Lieutenant Pete says, great insight from the panel tonight. Thank you, Lieutenant Pete. It's always appreciated. Um, Jack Mika, just to say, H had already discussed that same info in another video before Chris. It had been talked about already. I think Chris is thoughtful. We're not saying he's not thoughtful. Well, you heard what Joe Murray said.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying. I think I support all law enforcement. I'm on Duty Ron show all the time. I'm on Police Off the Cuff. I advertise on Police Off the Cuff. I love doing and helping cops. I supported Chris. I signed up as a subscriber at the highest level. I love what he's doing. He has this RV, him and Karen, they go out and they show you the terrain. They show you he walked through. He actually followed the path of where they went and what I thought it was brilliant. But when you, first of all, you're broadcasting these interviews, it's so harmful to the case when you do that, because you're pointing out he's doing what I do kind of as a defense attorney. Anytime my client is going to testify somewhere, I walk them through the facts. I do a mock interview. I question them. Now, Chris really has no knowledge of the case file, so he's really doing what I do as a defense attorney to prep my client. I'll walk through a questioning and a mock interrogation just on the facts that I know about. But the problem is law enforcement has a case file of much more facts, hard facts, that Chris doesn't know. And they can use these inconsistencies to then try to pressure them to get to the truth. They can't do that when Chris has now broadcast these interviews. It really taints the information. For me, even if I was to interview a witness, I want to interview the witness who saw what happened, and they're telling me what they saw, not what they heard another witness say. Oh, yeah, I heard this guy say that. I'll say this. Or he's contradicting me here, so I'll answer that this way. It just destroys the integrity of their statements. I think it's terrible. And this whole issue with H and outing a drug dealer, I don't care if you beep out his name. It's just, you shouldn't do it. But I do love Chris. I love him and Karen, what they're doing. It's just that he went too far. And I think it really hurt. God help us. I hope it doesn't hurt, H, but I think it hurts the case. I don't want to belabor that. I'm sorry if I went too far with that, but it just bothered me. So you talked about investigative direction. Why don't we go back to that? Because I can't move from it, because Candus is the last person alleged to have seen these kids, and she's giving this narrow timeline. But what possibly could have happened? Let's back that up now, just leaving aside that maybe she's wrong in the time frame. Let's try to play out what could have happened. Now, if this is an abduction, an organized thing where some sexual predator that's roaming around the neighborhood was plotting and planning to abduct her, what would he do? Or she, he or she working together. What would that person do? Would they just walk up on the property and snatch her? Would they have a car parked nearby? I mean, try to think of a theory and then look for how you can detect that theory or rule it out. Would they have to have a car? Where were they going to bring her? Did they have some kind of dungeon set up for her? Was she just going to be shipped out? And then also in those interviews, there was never any discussion from Candus ever about people living on the property that I'm aware of. Maybe in the chat, if anyone heard her say that elsewhere, there was never a discussion about other people living on the property. Even about when H brought up that phone call where Don says these guys who are touching kids, they're around. You gotta start to wonder why they were talking about that, and even the video, the TikTok video, is this real? Did it really happen? Or is it set up just to show, okay, I want to document. This is the last thing we have to document. I
Well,
don't know.
Joe, that's what's so frustrating is that we don't know what is true on this case and what's just fluff and all. There's just so many things coming in, especially with the electronic age and the age of the internet and all this stuff. Rumors become fact and fact become rumors, So
But
it's
for those that really believe Candace, I hear so many people, and I even in comments, I talk to people. They really believe her. It was a heartfelt interview, and they believe her. What is your theory? How did somebody get past all these dogs? Nobody ever noticed the dogs barking. There was no discussion about that. Candace didn't say, then I heard the dogs going wild and I ran outside. No, that's not what she said. There was no discussion of the dogs. Nobody heard her screaming. So what do we think, if we believe Candace, what possibly could have happened in that short time frame? I'm not ruling out something happened, but what could have happened? What's the theory that makes sense? How the body, whether living or dead, is nowhere to be found. There's no traces of it. Nobody heard from her. There was no screaming. There was no yelling. Where is any evidence that she was there?
No, you're right. There isn't. There isn't evidence that she ever got back to the house either. And all the things you're saying, like, if how she reported it is true, then why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? And again, the three boys are very valuable, witnesses. And now that they're in the custody of CPS, I hope they get a clear, concise statement from all three of them. Glamour Witch Official, thank you for the $10 super chat. She writes, New York state of mind, none can compare to our law enforcement. Can't get those skills anywhere else. Straight out of the Bronx. Love you guys. Thank you for all you have done and continue to do. God bless. Thank you very much, Glamour Witch. And 12-Step Woman, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Thank you guys for all your support. If you're not subscribed, the Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, please hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. A lot of the things too with the house was, that little tour of the house was, and the first thing I thought of also, did law enforcement on the 15th of June do a thorough search of this house? That's the first thing that came to my mind. I can't answer that. I mean, as I've said numerous times, in a missing person case, missing person 101 is to search the location where the missing person is reported missing from. That's the first thing that they're supposed to do.
You would think, Bill, that there would be the search, obviously the first day, but once the TBI and the FBI got involved, I'm sure they might have went over it. I would think that would be imperative right away to do that. There was something in the interview that Chris did when he was at the house. He asked Candace what she believed happened or what the police believe, and she just shrugged her shoulders and said, I don't know, like that. So the whole thing.
But something, Phil, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. But one thing she also did, she referred to Summer in the past tense again.
Yeah.
In that interview. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but she referred to her. Yeah.
You're right. You're right about that. And I think that Chris's interview did so many good things for this case for the people that watched, because it gave us the feeling of being there. We got to see the exact layout, not just a picture from, Google Maps or something. And he walked through, as Joe said, he walked through everything. And I think it was a very good interview, gave us a lot of information. I still don't like the answers she gave. I still don't like her demeanor. I don't like the the fact that all those dogs were there. There's just so many things that lead me to believe that she was deceptive in the story she gave. And I think, Bill, you pointed this out many times. The kids, the brothers are probably imperative to what took place that day, and the grandmother as well. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see just how this case goes. But I don't see any possibility of an abduction, and that's what her and Don seem to be, pointing towards all the time.
5P, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Thank you for your support. Folks, if you're not subscribers, please subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. Look, this case I think is complicated, yet it's not that complicated. And I think that the police, again, we're beating a dead horse. They have information that we don't. They have information that's not out there in the public domain. And look, my feelings, I haven't changed my opinion based on the search and seeing the interior of that house. I still think Candus and Don are involved, and that is my opinion based on my police experience, based on 16 years in the Detective Bureau, 10 years in homicide, and 27 years on the NYPD. That is my opinion. And, I just think that that's where the focus of this investigation should be. 100%.
I
Yeah,
agree
I
with
have
you.
to say I agree with you because the timeline is her own timeline just makes it so improbable that, what she's alleging is that somebody, took her. It's just so improbable. Whether she's covering up something bad that happened, I don't know. I guess it's possible. So most of the day, what she said was truthful, and it happened. But I don't want to second guess law enforcement in any way. But when we do find out eventually, as this case, because I do think it'll be solved, it's just going to take some time. I wonder why she asked Summer to go with her and not any of the other boys. With grandma at the hospital and then to go swimming. Why was it just Summer? And then why was she alone coming back? Why didn't she bring H back with? I mean, they're supposed to be so close, and the boys were at home, and H was looking to get out of the house. Why wouldn't she bring him back? And there's just some problems I have with her rendition of what happened. Not anyone else's, her rendition. And it's all pointing to she knows more. She's not telling us the whole story. God help me, I'm not accusing her yet, but I'm just looking at the obvious facts that are pointing to her. She has to have more information. It doesn't make sense, the story she gave us, the timeline. Just explain why you wouldn't bring H back to the house. Why wouldn't you? Just knowing what we know now about that. And why isn't that an issue? So many things bother me, and I think your investigative direction was right from the beginning, and I'm still with you.
Yeah, I don't see a reason, and we've said many times that if the direction needs to be changed, we can do that. We can totally retool and go in another direction, but it hasn't. My investigative direction, based on what I've seen, it hasn't changed. I'm still in the same direction as I was on June 15th.
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to point out. Now, let's just erase what she told us. Let's just put that out of our minds for a second. Just look now. I saw in one of the comments in the chat, if my 5-year-old was missing, I wouldn't even be able to speak. Now, she's done several interviews, and I've seen interviews where a kid is abducted and missing, and usually the parent that's given an interview or begging for the child to be returned is completely emotional and, is frantic. She never displayed that kind of emotion. So that alone, then all the other things that we pointed out, all the other inconsistencies. And one other thing I want to point out about the interview that Chris did, he brings up H to Candace, and he says to her, Did you have feelings for him? There was something he made some kind of remark, almost to say that was there some type of romantic feelings between the two of them? She became very offended by that and said, "Oh no, absolutely not." So who knows? But she is reaching out to a 15-year-old boy to come and hang out with them during the day. I'm not trying to make any cast any aspersions or anything like that, but she did become a little bit uneasy when he brought that up. So almost like it had been said before. So who knows what was going on between those two? But yeah, even I'm gonna go out on a limb and say in one of the interviews she looked like she was completely stoned. Okay, she was high, she was on pills, whatever. She didn't cry, she didn't get emotional. But then when she did this other interview, which was fresh, I mean, the kids were removed at that point. The daughter is missing 40 days, and she doesn't even shed a tear. I don't know the whole thing. It's giving me a creepy feeling.
Phil, you know something about instincts? They're always correct,
Yep.
and that's what you go with your instincts. And it's instincts aren't the only thing. There's lots of other things. There's reasoning. There's weighing the evidence. There's looking at the totality of all of what we've heard, and that's how you make it. Look, I've run hundreds of homicide investigations, and I ran the case. I had 6 detectives in the homicide squad and squad detectives, so I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. And this case, the direction is what we're talking about. It's the correct direction. And so many people, like in these chats, are feeling sorry for these people. But something, it's they don't have the experience we have. I'll put it that way.
Let's feel
Um,
sorry for Summer. That's what we got to feel sorry for. And the other
exactly.
children.
Vet girl, thank you so much for the 9.99 super chat. It's look, homicide investigation is a contact sport, and it's not a sport. I shouldn't put it that way, but it's not an easy thing. And you take hits to you know, your persona. We feel too, we cry when things bad happens, we cry too. But we also have to keep a level head and do our investigation, make our investigative checks, do what's feasible, weigh the evidence, and act accordingly. I told the story when we first started about the 3-month-old dead baby. That's horrible for anyone to have to see. But our job is not to get emotionally involved. It's to do our job and do the investigation. And we can get emotional once the case is brought to conclusion. Yeah, Joe.
Can I ask you? I mean, I would love to go through what she was saying. Once she got out of the car and she went over to mom's and was bringing the groceries and doing that stuff, she seemed to be overly careful about, leaving no time gap in any way. Like she said, Candace says that I had someone with me. And then she wanted to go back to the house. So she was like, walked out and she got halfway over there and then called out to the boys. Did that seem credible to you guys? Because to me, it seemed like she was, overstating it. I mean, you're living up on top of this hill. There's no one around. You just walked out of the car.
Right.
Why would you? It's sunny out. The dogs are there. Why would you walk her out halfway to the house and then go, okay, boys, watch out for a sissy? I don't believe that because it's not credible. I think
No.
she said, sure, you want to go home. If that happened. So I'm curious, the people in the chat who saw that video, what they thought about that. Did you really believe that she walked her by the hand halfway there and then watched her go up the stairs?
I don't buy. I don't buy any of that. It's overdone. It's way
Yeah,
overdone.
yeah.
Somebody
That-
you know what that sounds like? Somebody who has an ACS case.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have a CPS
Yeah.
case and they're worried, I can't allow them to see me do anything wrong. So she factored that into her story. But when you think about, we're talking about her missing child, that she would lie about facts in an investigation regarding her missing child, it starts to fall apart on me. If
Yeah,
you're
no,
willing
Joe,
to
you're
lie,
100% right. I just want
That's
to
a
read a
great
comment.
observation. That's a great
Um,
observation, Joe.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And one
go
last
ahead. I
point.
just go
The
ahead.
distance between the grandmother's trailer and the house is maybe 15, 20 yards. So you're 100% right, Joe. They were outside planting or whatever. I'm going to go home. Okay. And, the kid turns and walks a few yards and she's in the house. That was definitely like a staged response, or she thought that out in her head before she answered that question. She was ready for that.
Joe,
You
you're
know what?
100% right. And I'll get back to it in 1 second. I just want
Sure.
to read this comment. Retired Sergeant Melinda. Policing each other is a good thing, not bad nor personal. Thank you, Bill, Phil, Duty Ron, Attorney Joe Murray, and my daddy for honesty. Stop jumping on the panel. 50 years combined experience and most solved. Listen, that's part of this game. When you want to criticize us, we've had worse things happen to us. We've been shot at. We've had people hit us with things. So whatever you say in these comments, sticks and stones. And Joe, getting back, that was a beautiful observation. It's I quoted Shakespeare again, and I'll do it again. You doth protesteth too much, and that's exactly what she was doing by pretending that she went over above and beyond. Yes, I walked her the 20 yards to the house. Said, "Boys, why?" It didn't make any
Yeah,
sense
that don't make
whatsoever.
sense. It don't make sense at all.
And when you talk about that, you're lying about the last minutes of seeing your daughter. If you're capable of doing that, then what else are you lying about? If you're going to risk the integrity of this investigation because you're putting forth fake facts because you're more worried about the CPS case, I gotta say that it really deflates her credibility with me, that she's not more worried about, hey, listen, if I did something horrible and my kid disappeared, I'll dive on the sword. I want my kid found. I'll deal with that problem later. That's not what I'm getting from her. She's more worried about covering her CYA than revealing the truth of what happened. That's why it just bugs me. I know she knows more. She may not have been the bad actor, but she's covering it up. She's hiding something. And I think, sooner or later that's going to be revealed.
Joy, you're 150% correct, She, because people that aren't hiding things don't lie. They tell the truth. And there's so many instances where what she said could be challenged, and it was a lie. So,
Bill, I look forward to the comments, and I even look forward to some of the criticisms, because I think that when we do get a criticism, we answer it by saying, well, the reason I said what I said was because of this or that. And there's been some great comments, like the comment about the grandmother being in the hospital, and then they went to the drugstore and they picked up pain medication. We don't know what happened in those few hours. Maybe they were getting high. They were eating these pills, and they were, blotto somewhere, and some horrible thing happened to the kid, and then they went to cover it up. So there's some great points. And like I said, I don't mind a comment or a criticism. And anybody wants the criticism, I think we're big enough, we have thick enough skin. We've been in the police department. We've been in the thick of things, like you said, shootouts and all the other things that we've saw and done. So we're big boys. We can handle it. And I look forward to a comment or a criticism, and answering it out is not an issue for me at all. And I don't think it's for any of us.
no,
Bill, would
and
you
Phil,
mind?
they know you're coming straight out of Brooklyn, so they're a little intimidated. They're a
You
little
got a big
intimidated with that anyway.
location.
And something, there's a lot of reasons to be intimidated of this guy too.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only was he an attorney, but he was a heavyweight fighter. So you got to be a little afraid of him too.
Bill, I don't know if you want to entertain this, but I was just spitballing, trying to come up with possible, things that are happening. As long as we make that clear, I don't want anyone to think that we know something. But I was just bothered so much by the fact that H wanted to be with them. He wanted to get out of the house. How long were they together? What would have been the problem bringing him back to their house? But That didn't happen for a reason, for some reason, I believe. So where did they go to after that? A drug dealer? Did they go somewhere? Did they get high? Did they leave her in the back of the car during this, midday heat with her coat on? Did some tragedy befall her, while she was, high and intoxicated? And I'm just trying to come up with how do we explain these facts that we know that seem a little out of the ordinary? Like H being dropped off and not invited back. I mean, all the boys were home. Hunter was going to be home. I mean, Hunter. Summer was going to be home with the boys, and they were going to, I guess, watch TV and play. Like that's what they were going to do. So that bothers me that he wasn't invited back, especially that he wanted to be out, and he's like, a stepchild. So
Right.
maybe there was another plan for what they were going to do. And
You know what else is an interesting thing I'd like to know? What's a source of income? I mean, maybe they got this prescription. They went and was selling the pills because oxycodone pills could go for like $10 a piece. So maybe that's one of the components of this missing case. Where did their source of income come from? I mean, she talked about, yeah, we were going to buy vapes and we're going to buy this and that. Sounds like a lot of money was being spent that day. I don't know. Just it seems a little odd. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. We're not getting the right answers from Candus or from Don. And I would love to know what the boys and the mom had to say, as well as many other people.
good point.
Absolutely. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Joe, you have such a different perspective even than most law enforcement guys because you're seeing the other side, being a defense attorney, and I really appreciate your analysis. It's really thoughtful, and it's really a great addition to the show. And Phil, I can't say enough about you. And people love that you're straight out of Brooklyn, and the Joe Pesci angle. They love it, And I just say, look, we're going to stay with this.
My opinion, we have the most amazing mods, I think, on YouTube. We got Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Four Sons Mom, Melissa Hart. And we're just grateful for all of our members but more importantly, our subscribers as well. This is what I like to call a really good place to be. I like to ask right up front that we're classy in terms of how we treat others and treat each other because uh, I've learned over the years that there's enough hate and discontent in the world that when you're trying to investigate homicide and or missing persons, and more specifically a 5-year-old little girl like the authorities are, then the way you get to information that is truthful is by treating people with respect. And as you can see in that interview that Candace just gave, that is part one of 2 interviews. We'll have the other one up probably tomorrow. So if you get an opportunity, subscribe to the channel and come back where she's going to walk me through the house. And she's going to go bullet by bullet on what happened the day little Summer vanished. It is not my responsibility to get her to, say the truth or to lie. That is law enforcement's responsibility. I am a member of the Cold Case Foundation, as you can see here. We are a 501c3, and everything we do supports law enforcement and victims' families on an international level. There are over 125 members from the woman who invented and discovered touch DNA, to Greg Cooper, who's our executive director, who actually ran the behavior science unit with John Douglas back in the day for the FBI. So I came to Tennessee and made contact. We actually, Candus and I and others had connected, and she and I thought it would be a good idea for her to speak about what she recalled that day. We're not going to get involved in what the authorities are doing, even though I happen to know, folks here at TBI. They've not asked me. I'm not acting as an agent on behalf of TBI or anything to that effect, for court purposes or anything like that. However, I am when a mother says, "Can you help me?" and such as Candace, I'm not, and our association certainly is not going to turn that down, whether there's guilt or innocence there. That is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to let law enforcement figure that out. And hopefully this interview and others will give them the tools to progress in that end. So we thank everybody for being here. We appreciate you very much. We thank you for your support. We receive thousands of emails of support, and anything that becomes evidentiary in nature, the Cold Case Foundation, as well as myself, we turn it over immediately upon request to law enforcement authorities if it's necessary. So nothing is held back at this end. Nobody's getting paid for interviews or anything like that. This YouTube channel was started when a buddy of mine said you should start a YouTube channel. So here we am. I wasn't there also to call her out on her statements. That's for the authorities to do, because this is a fluid, active investigation. And anybody knows a good investigator does one of two things. There are two ways of getting information, and one of the two ways is wrong. And I use the analogy of a string. Okay? It's this idea that says, if I push that string, then you get the result of pushing a string. If I pull that string, then that string gets to your destination where you're pulling it. So that comes with experience. It comes with treating people with respect and dignity. I've sat across from serial killers who I've asked them, "Would you like a cup of water?" Okay? And if you have any questions about that, then go take a look at the interview I did with Brandon Wilson. He was a child killer who slaughtered a 9-year-old little boy in the bathroom where I used to work. I have worked hundreds and hundreds of murders and investigations internationally, and my bio will speak for itself. So I wanted to hear what she had to say, and I did not, want people, or what I asked for people in the chat here is to just sit back for a minute, take the role of an investigator, because that's what we do in this new genre of true crime. But what I want you to think about is, as we listen to folks, okay, whether we think they're telling the truth or not, okay, sometimes it's better just to sit back and be patient. Okay, and so you'll see tomorrow a lot of details come out in relationship to that day when Summer went missing. In fact, when I got there, I had many aha moments. I'm not going to reveal what those were because I think the authorities may have had the same aha moments, and that was the same when I was talking to Candace down at the water's edge. That said, I really have to applaud her and her bravery to come down there. She did not hesitate. She and I spoke the day before. She told me that we could connect. She said, "I'm going to go to church which, I confirmed that she did that morning. And then we connected in the afternoon to go down. And I asked her if she would walk me through what you just saw there. So that's that was pretty interesting. So here's what we learned. Okay, and there were many times in this interview, and I apologize for the wind. The wind was atrocious down there for some reason, and I apologize for the sound. Hopefully, some of you, will be able to, fix the sound a little bit more. But when I got down there, the first thing that struck me, she was wearing that little shirt that says Paw Patrol, and but it says Mom, Mom Patrol. And you'll see when she points out some of Summer's toys, how significant that is in relationship to the victimology and the dynamics of this little girl. One of the things that is critical in a missing child case is to understand the behavioral aspects of not only the family dynamics, but also the children and the child. That was a rough day for her when she gave this interview because, and she let me share this with you, because that was the day that the children were, they had just recently been removed from the home. And, she felt this void of, everything that's going on, a lot of different things, happening inside of her in relationship to some of the, social media things, as well as, the authorities. But, to her credit, she came forward and she said, look, I want to do this. And this whole interview was, as you can see, it was a free flow. I didn't go down lanes that I'm sure a lot of people felt that should have been down, but that's not my job. My responsibility here is to let her tell her story. And that way, it's non-judgmental in relationship to, who she is. We all struggle in this life. And one of the cases years ago that I was involved in is a little girl by the name of Leticia Hernandez, which I've talked about extensively. But there were a lot of players around that investigation and others. Matthew Checky is another one. In San Diego County back in the day, we had a series of children that were, Danielle, that were murdered. And I got selected to go, and my background is criminal behavioral analysis with an emphasis in criminal pedophilia and folks who choose children to victimize, okay, for murder for sexual gratification, basically. And that said, I was involved in a lot of different things through my career and through the Cold Case Foundation, where I'm an instructor. And so a couple of things that I think we need to be aware of. She talked specifically about, the Paw Patrol, Little Ponies bracelets, basically girly things. And you're going to see this tomorrow. And you're also going to see, really the environmental dynamics that Summer, the boys, mom, dad, grandma, we're dealing with here. The one thing I will not say, or the one thing I will say, is Don was not home. He apparently was at work. Grandma is not there any longer. Her trailer is locked up, and it looks like she has left the property as well. So, Candus was pretty straight up in terms of, yeah, come on. I mean, if you'll see at the, if you watch that video again at the end of the interview, when I said, would you walk me through what happened at the house? She's the one that said at the house, and volunteered it almost immediately. So you'll see some of those dynamics tomorrow. And I think this next one is really going to tie a lot of understanding together for this particular case. So she starts out this idea of the children, going down to the swimming hole there, because she likes to keep her kids away from other kids, and she gave or the reason for because of the medical issues, i.e., COVID and a variety of other things. Okay? And she says that look, I'm not the type of personality that likes to be around crowds. She sticks to her family, those types of things. I asked her off camera about some of the dynamics in relationship to some of the addiction challenges and stuff, and she didn't deny them. Okay? But she also didn't say that this was a situation in her mind that day that was taking place. And you'll hear some of that on tomorrow's interview. One of the most interesting things that struck me almost immediately when we started to walk towards the water, and when you go back and watch the video, she said that Hunter immediately went off, to the right into the woods. Okay? Now, remember, I had an 80-20 rule when I was talking to Hunter. Okay, so that's going to go up on the board of that 80-20, and so welcome everybody to the interview room. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We're grateful that you're here and to talk about summer and to show you part two of the first interview I had with Candus down at the swimming hole. Um, there's been kind of a lot of craziness, quite frankly, but what I want you to remember tonight, as we're all here, we are here for one reason. Number one, for Summer Wells, to help in relationship to trying to identify a lot of moving parts here. And so I want to give you a heads up. The video that I'm going to play, there's going to be a tremendous amount of emotion, opinion, going to be flying over the internet, i.e., space. Okay? Please, let's remember this little girl is involved in an active investigation that is very fluid. And I think it's a responsibility to give people a place where they can express their feelings and or emotions. And quite frankly, whether there's guilt or innocence attached to it, that is not our responsibility, and certainly not as an investigator, to throw somebody under the bus without knowing all the facts. Okay? That said, there's a lot of players in this, as we all know, and there's a lot of moving parts. But I can assure you, the FBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, the Sheriff's Department, and others who are involved in this investigation, from their perspective, they have it moving correctly in the right direction. Now, one of the things that I want to bring to your attention today is I'm going to play this video straight through. And the reason I'm going to do it here on a live versus just posting it up is because of all the craziness that took place on the last one. Okay? And so I want to be respectful to Summer and all of the people involved in this, including the investigators. You know, being in the Cold Case Foundation, you know, we are actively involved in a couple of hundred investigations worldwide right now. We work with all kinds of law enforcement agencies around the country. And if you want to see, you know, the bios that, you know, who I am and what I'm about, you can just go up on top on my channel and just hit my bio, and it will take you over where you need to be. That said, I'm going to play this through, and then we're going to come back and we'll discuss it right here. So I just want, I'm going to give you a heads up, please. This could be potentially, you know, emotional for some. So here we go, and I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Hey. You know, I have much more respect for what you're telling me by standing here, and I've got my little camera here, so. But I'm looking at this terrain, and I'm going, holy cow, she could have even. There's a million possibilities here.
Yeah, there's
down there, and there's the road down there.
Yeah, that's the road. That's my mom's house.
Okay.
Like literally, it's.
And this right here.
Usually you can see the road because they have went through here and mowed and took down a bunch of stuff away from the power lines.
Okay.
But usually it's full up. You can't even see the road.
That day though, how was it? Was it full up or was it like this?
That day and a few days prior to that, they were working on this.
Okay.
So I've even come to a conclusion maybe one of them people have snatched it.
Oh, interesting.
Because they were all the way up here.
Yeah, I see those the path down there. I see the tracks down there.
Yep.
Over there.
And they were all the way up here to my light pole.
Okay. And you told TBI all this, right?
I told TBI this, yes.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, I can see the cars going by. That is not far from your property.
Mm-mm.
Is there a holler down there? I mean, is there a river of some sort?
The creek runs all the way around the property.
And how deep is a creek? Okay, just so it's like an inch,
Yeah.
inch or two. Okay,
You'd be lucky to get wet enough to do anything.
okay. All right, so let's pick it up from where, and I'm going to just use this little one. Is that
Oh,
okay?
you're fine.
Okay, so from where when you got home, now
No,
she's
My
leaning.
mom's truck parks here.
Okay, your mom's truck's right here.
Yes.
Okay, so she's leaning against the milk. Is
Yes.
she sleeping?
She was sleeping, yes.
Okay, from exhaustion from that day.
Yes, she
Okay.
was. Where I woke her up early, and she usually sleeps till 9, 10, even 12 o'clock if I let her.
Okay, how did the milk bottles get rearranged? Hunter said he had them on the floor and then he put them next to him.
They weren't
Is that
on. No.
Okay, so walk me through that.
When we dropped them off, they were actually still on his lap,
Okay,
and he put them on the other side of Summer.
okay. So he reached over.
Yeah, he set them over there by that. That's a black tote she had in there.
Okay, was there? Where's that tote at?
I think actually my mom's got it still in her truck. It's got a bunch of crafts and stuff in it.
Okay, got it. And now from when you pulled up, did she just fall asleep next to that?
She fell asleep, I'd say maybe 5 minutes on the road.
Okay, got it. And then so walk me through. You get home. You take the groceries inside. Is Don home, by the way?
No, he's
Okay,
not.
okay.
Actually, I parked the truck and I opened both doors. It's really hard because this lawnmower is. But I opened the doors up and I shook her. I said, "Wake up, we're at home." She jumped right up.
Okay.
Like nothing. I unbuckled her and I said, "Come on." I said, "Mom, I'll be right back." Well, went in there and got the boys and they were sitting at the table. And I said, "Come on, let's get the groceries out." And we brought them all in the house, went through them all, did all that.
And this is that's her swing.
That's her swing right there.
Come show me her swing. Why is this? And who's this?
That is Smoking Boots. That's my boy's cat.
And how many dogs do you have here on the property? About.
Honestly, I don't know because people just keep dropping them off.
Hi. I know. Okay. Sorry. So this is her swing.
That's her swing.
This is her playground.
Yep.
And she loved this area. Boy, I'm looking at this, and this terrain, Candace, just strikes me as being so dense and just. Is that what they say, the dog trail? Where's this dog trail thing? That
I'm not sure, honestly.
There's so many of them.
The dogs go in every different.
Yeah, I
way.
saw the dogs came out of the woods as we were pulling up.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do that all the time.
Okay.
That trail right there, my boys, they ride those dirt bikes that are leaning against the truck over there.
Okay.
You can see there's one of them.
Okay.
And they ride
those are
on-
like 50 cc's, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one ain't. I think it's only like 25, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, they go down that trail with their dirt bikes and then come back up on the road, up on the driveway and go around and stuff.
What was it about this swing that is just so important for her?
She liked it. She just liked the swing. All the kids did.
Now, I don't want to talk about the boys right now because I know that's, a tough another part of your heart. Okay. Yeah. And that's none of my business. Right. I'm not here for any of it. You know what I mean? I'm not here to judge anybody. Right. I'm here to talk about Summer and help you find Summer. Okay. And help anybody find her. Okay. That messaging. Okay. So you go into the house.
Go in the house.
Can I follow you in, or you comfortable with that? Huh?
I don't know what about this. Still the cat food.
And is this they're gonna attack me?
No.
Oh, I was just I'm teasing you. The dog's gonna attack me. So this is the scaffolding you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my.
Okay, so she comes up, jumps up, and goes right in.
Yep.
Okay. How many cats? You know what? You should have like a zoo license. You know, I'm seeing all kinds of critters, which is good. Okay, where's Summer's bed?
Oh, it's in the basement.
Got it. Okay. So what happens when she comes in? The boys are playing where?
No, the boys are actually sitting here.
Okay.
And they're actually sitting right here at the table watching TV.
Okay, so they're at the table
Yeah, I come
watching
in and get
TV.
'em.
Okay.
They were all locked in. Nobody could get in. Nobody could get out. Kind
Okay.
of thing.
Now, who's this on up here?
That's my little sister that's missing.
Oh, that's Rose.
That's Rosie.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow. And who's the guy?
That's her ex-husband.
Wow. Do you think he had anything to do with that?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to go
I-
there.
Can't say.
How's
yes
your
or no.
mom deal with that?
It's difficult.
Yeah, I know. You know, I know, right? So, okay, watching TV. Where's Summer?
Summer, she was with me.
Okay, so walk me through that.
All right. Well, we walked up in here and we got Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon, the boys.
Right.
Well,
You put the groceries down, right?
Yeah. Well, we went back out and then we brought the groceries in and put them down. And then Mom, she went took her stuff to her house, put her stuff away.
Okay.
And then, of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away.
Okay. You went back in.
Yeah, me and Summer went back in the house. And then we were just doing normal stuff.
Okay.
Around the house like we normally do. And I come out, Mom was sitting there at the time I come out and I'm standing here. I
Okay.
was like, what are you doing? What are you staring at? She's like, these plants, I gotta get them transplanted. I was like, well, Summer will help us. So I went back in. By that time, she was sitting on the floor playing with her toys.
Right here.
No, in the kitchen where we were just at.
Okay.
She was actually sitting on the floor playing with the toys at that time. I said, Summer, you want to help plant flowers? And she jumped up, left her toys and us. That's cool.
Yeah,
Then we
well,
walked
that's
over
what kids do. It's their job.
Right?
Okay.
We
Get-
walked over here and we transplanted these cactuses from the little pots that they were in. We transplanted these ones here into this bigger pot and that one into that bigger pot. And then she took the rocks that we've gotten from different gem mines when we went up to Gatlinburg and stuff.
Okay.
And she's the one that spreaded all the rocks around in here. And then she put her puppies in here. She wanted Chase in there, you know.
Okay.
That was cool.
Where are those puppies now?
What do you mean?
Oh, the little
The
puppies.
little,
Her real
yeah,
ones.
these little.
Oh, yeah, those little guys. Oh, that's Paw Patrol.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the police one.
Yep, that's Chase. He's always on the case.
Okay. Okay.
And then we went
Oh,
in
I see
there.
another one over
Yep,
here.
She put them in there. Yep, you're on the cactus.
Okay. Don't take those out, okay?
No, I leave them right there.
I know.
And then we went in my mom's wood. We can't get in there.
Yeah,
It's all
that's
set.
fine. Went in
But
there.
We went in there and got some candy and stuff. She gets some grandma.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm going to go back over to the house. She wanted to go back, so I said I'd go back, you know.
Okay.
And I brought her, I literally walked over to here. Like, literally walked right to here where I could see the boys and on the kitchen table.
Got them.
And I watched her walk in there. And afterwards, when she was already in there, I walked over, I said, Wyatt. And he looked at me and I said, watch Sissy, I'll be right back. And that's when I walked back over to my mom's.
Okay.
And I was fixing her brace and stuff like that. And I said, well, Mom, I got to go back over with the kids. And that's when I come back up into the house
Okay.
with the boys.
Okay. You walked into the house.
I walked into here. Get up. I walked in here and them three were sitting right here in front with their eyes glued to the TV, like always. And I said, boys, where's your sister at? Well, she just went downstairs, Mom, to play. So I went over here like this. So this is where the stairs are.
Okay.
It's actually down under there.
Oh, down into her
Down into
bedroom.
our bedroom, and then hers is on the other side.
Oh, okay, in the basement.
Yeah, in the basement.
Well, this makes sense now. See?
And then I yelled, I said, Summer, Summer. And she didn't, I listened for a minute, I didn't hear nothing. So I went like this. This is how I always get down here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to come down here or not.
Do I got to be tiny to get in there?
No, you should
Can we come in from the other side?
Well, we can, but it make more sense if you went this way.
Okay, I'll follow you. Oh man, good grief,
No, I
girl.
know if my 6-foot husband can fit down here, you can.
Huh?
My husband's 6 foot. I know if he could fit, you can.
This. Oh my gosh. Way to go.
This is mine, my husband's room.
Okay,
And over here, well, it's a mess again.
that's all right.
But this is where Summer and little Waylon was. Because Waylon's only 9.
Okay,
And they stayed down here. And these are all her toys, all her Paw Patrol,
All her movies. She's got a movie about the
The
Savior.
boys I brought back down here after she went missing because I didn't want them upstairs by themselves.
Okay. And this is all her toys.
These are all her toys. All these toys that are down here are all hers, except for like the trucks and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the game system. That's the boys'.
Okay.
But them are all her toys.
And she's really into Paw Patrol. I see that.
Yeah, I've been collecting from day one. And these are all her little ponies that I've bought. And then these are them girls that she likes. Them new fashion, I don't know what they are, little princesses or whatever. She's like all kinds of, here's one of them bracelets.
Oh, that's just one of them what do they call these? Oh, this is little pony bracelets.
Yeah, I don't know what they were really called, but she liked them, and so I just, every time I go to the garage sale, I'd buy her what she wanted.
Okay.
You know, whenever I got a little bit of money, I spend it on the kids.
Yeah, this is her, I understand her now.
Yeah.
Even better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is really important.
But yeah, I come down and I searched. I looked up underneath the beds under there. We can't really get them. I can't get them there.
Yeah.
But I looked under there, looked under every blanket I could possibly look under.
Yep.
And then I come over here and I look on one side there and see nowhere. And I don't recall if this was locked or not. I don't recall that.
Okay.
But I know, it's hard on me. But I know I did come out here and I said, Summer. Because sometimes she'll sit right here and just sit here and play just for, you know. And usually when she comes out and she goes directly that way up to the swing.
Oh, okay, so this is like her.
Yeah, she
come running out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can see the path here.
Right to the swing.
Right, you can see where she could have run right up to
and this
here.
is all the further she would go. She wouldn't leave.
Okay.
She wouldn't go nowhere else.
Okay. I want to go around this side. What is this blue thing here?
Oh, that was we were putting trash in it,
Okay.
and we did have a trash man at the time, but he stopped running.
Oh, wow.
I got lost this.
Okay, I'm going to film around this side. Now walk me through, what's this little
That right there?
little cave thing there?
That's not really a cave. Actually, we built this addition, me and Donnie and the kids,
Oh, okay.
and we left this part open because the dog at the time we did have little puppies. These dogs were little puppies, and we let them go under there. They would run in and out of the bricks over there. There's actually 7 pups up under there now.
Okay.
And it's always been open like that. Well, you can see after you've been here, you can see how mellow the dogs are.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
That's what they do.
And
They're lazy.
they're kind of a Jack Russell. They got a little Jack
They're
Russell
Jack
in it.
Russell, yeah. Actually, the gentleman that lives over there in the other trailer across the creek actually has the mama to that dog there.
Now, what's this little shed over here?
Oh, that one there?
Yeah,
That's where Donnie keeps all his tools.
got it. Okay, can I go look? No?
You can go look, but it's a mess.
No? Okay, no, it's up. Okay, that's fine.
Nothing in there.
Yeah, no worries. I don't want to get in.
I don't want you to get hurt.
Well, and you know what? I don't want other people to.
I don't let my kids in there either.
Yeah, no
It's just
problem.
not a place for.
I totally respect that. That's not an issue. But I think this is interesting because this is, you can really clearly see where she runs on this path down here.
It's not the prettiest house in the world, but
Huh?
I said it's not the most beautiful house in the world.
You know
but
what? It's a house.
It's a
You know what? you, you know, God forbid, you know, anybody judge you for having a bad house. You know, I mean, it is what it is. At least you're putting food on the table
Oh, have you
and
seen the food?
trying to do your best. I saw.
And then Allie says that she bought the food.
And then this is over here. This, yeah, that's where you do your fire for the kids.
That heat stuff.
Is that an old generator?
Yeah.
Does it work? No, did it at some point?
It worked like over 14, 15 years ago, way before I was here.
Old school bus, you can turn that into a camper?
That was my mom's plan. I literally actually rode in that bus when I was a little kid.
Whenever I see a school bus, I always ask that question.
I did.
Okay, tell me about it.
Me and my mom and Summer and the two boys, not Josie, he went north, but Wyatt and Waylon rode up to north to get that from my mom's friend's house. And I drove a truck and she drove the school bus back.
That's awesome. This is rough terrain. Let's go look at the, tell me about this area over here.
This is just pretty much scrap metal, really.
And do you trade the scrap metal in for cash?
No.
Sometimes, no?
No, it just sits there.
And this is mom's trailer right
Yeah,
here?
this is my mom's camper.
Okay. Okay. And these are the flowers
Yeah.
with her little buddies.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a good picture of that. Her Paw Patrol. This is so sweet. These are Summer's little toys there. There's one there. Then there's this guy right here. Then this is Casey on the case.
It's Chase.
Okay. I love it.
Got Chase on the case and you got Rubble on the double.
And you have, obviously, somebody made you a cool shirt. I want to show everybody that shirt again. That Mom on Patrol for Summer. Wow. And this is that road down behind the property. Back there you can see. So, Miss Candus, while I'm out here, is there anything that you feel is important that you'd want to tell the world that I haven't asked you that you want to let them know?
Not really, just hope that everybody that's looking for her, that we can find her and bring her home safely.
Okay.
She was very precious to me.
Okay. And the authorities are working hard on this.
Yes, from what I understand, yes.
Okay. And, you know, we're going to let them do their job.
Yes, sir.
Right?
That's right.
And you're cooperating, obviously.
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. And now there is a rumor about these polygraph tests. Clear that up.
All right. The first one that I took, and I didn't really take it because they kind of threw me in the back of the squad car, so I was really upset and, you know, just I was crying my eyes out.
Okay.
And so when I got up there to the courthouse, we tried to do it, but I couldn't do it.
Okay.
So we waited a few days, and then I went back and I did it, and I passed it.
Okay.
So that was that.
Okay. And then what about the rumors of this relationship situation with Hunter?
Are you crazy? I got a husband and 4 kids
Okay.
that I love to death.
Okay. Okay.
To me, Hunter was another one of my kids.
Okay.
That's how I felt about any kid.
Okay. Now, when I was on the phone with you yesterday briefly,
Yes.
you said he got the story out of order.
Yeah.
Okay. But it sounded like he was kind of telling the truth there.
He was kind of telling the truth, but the way he was telling where we went and how we did it was all twisted up and around.
What's different that you want to clear up?
Well, because when we left from the emergency room, we went straight to the smoke shop, and that's when I got the cigarettes and stuff like that there. And then we stopped at the hippie house, and I got those cheap vapes because they're cheap there. And then we went and put my mom's prescription in, and then we went to Warriors, and then we come back to Walgreens, got mom's prescription, went to Sonic, then to Priceless, then to his house.
Okay.
And that's exactly
That's
in
the
that
order. Okay. So he had it different in your
from what you remember.
Right.
Okay. So,
Well,
right.
Not what I remember. It's how it was.
Okay, because you're driving.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you're
I
driving.
was driving. I knew where I was going.
Okay. And what about, he said that he asked you for the tea and that you gave him a tea.
He didn't
That,
ask me for nothing.
okay, I'm just,
He asked me for a Mountain Dew.
okay.
I got him a Mountain Dew.
Okay, where did the orange crush come from on the seat with Summer?
That was my mom's. She was drinking that and then didn't want no more of it.
And what about the candy on the seat?
Oh, that candy's been in
Okay, okay. And what about the pillow?
the pillow. What pillow?
Oh, she's sitting on a pillow.
She sure. Oh, mom gets mad because if the kids get in their wet bathing suit and stuff, so I just put the pillow underneath her so mom wasn't complaining.
Got it. Okay, okay. Good. So there is a time frame here between this trailer and that house within, you said 2 to 10 minutes, maybe
No, 2 to 5.
2 to 5. And then she goes in and now she's gone.
Oh.
What do you think happened?
I don't know.
Where would a suspect have been, in your opinion, in this?
My opinion?
Yeah, in this area.
They could have been sitting anywhere. They could have been sitting over here, just off the little edge right here, or where the bus is, that little bushy area right there. They could have been sitting
Right out
there.
here?
Yeah. And
Okay,
I just,
come show me.
what's that?
That's all right.
And I just recently found out that there was like, I guess these child molesters
Okay.
that lived like literally 8 minutes from my house. And he can literally walk from his house into my house
Okay.
within 8 minutes.
Okay.
And like that bushy area right there, you can't really tell if anybody's crouched down there or anything.
What do the authorities think?
I don't know what they think. I really don't.
Okay. Yeah. I love this swing. This is summer. Okay, there you have it. It was my when I went up there. She was very gracious. We talked for a little bit. Obviously, initially, she picked up right where she left off from the water hole without hesitation. And when we were driving up the driveway there, if you've when you get up up to her street and you turn up her driveway, just before we did that, she pulled over, got out of the car, walked over to the gate. I, observed quickly that the gate was, a chain, a large chain. She unlocked the chain and then threw it into the woods. But almost immediately, 5 or 6 dogs came out of the woods right at the truck that I was, that I have. And as, she took off up the hill, and when you get up to the top of the, or as you're going up that hill, there's just, ruts and just tons of ruts. And what happens is when it rains, it washes all that gravel down. And so, that road, quite frankly, is absolutely atrocious. So as you get up, you have to turn to the right, and then it takes you around by the side of the basement there that would be to your left. And as you come up, and then when I got up to the top of the hill, there were a lot of other dogs up there. I think there was a total of about 13 dogs. And Candace shared with me that there are a lot of people that just let their dogs loose, and I think what's happening is they're starting to potentially congregate right there up on that hill. um, that said, so a couple of interesting observations, and again, it is not you know my responsibility, nor should it be, to interrogate you know Candace. This is a fluid law enforcement investigation. I wanted to give her a safe place to speak and to talk. And are there some discrepancies? Of course. Um, I think some of those can be explained by the area that we're in, rural Tennessee. I think she corrects herself quickly. Some of that can be related to her street smarts and her background, et cetera. But simultaneously, some of the things she was saying, gave me the impression that too, there's definitely more to this story. And is so then I had to step back, personally, being objective and not, saying this or that because I don't know. TBI knows, FBI may know, but I just don't fly off the handle and say stuff like that, right? We let the facts fall into place, and once they fall into place, then we'll all know. However, some observations, uh, the as we got around, and my aha moment for that situation was when I asked if I could, look into the shed. Now, Don was not home. He was supposed to be at work, but I just had a sinking feeling that he potentially could have been around the area. I don't know that for sure, but when I looked over at the shed and I saw that door open, um, you know, one has to wonder, right? But hopefully, I'll get an opportunity to talk to him and ask him, and then we'll know for sure. Um, as you can tell, the house in of itself, is not unusual for country folk in the middle of quite frankly nowhere. Okay, and in this case, obviously, Middle Tennessee, and so I was not shocked by any of the stuff inside until I went into the basement, and then I saw some of the way the kids were you know um, basically sleeping and the sleeping conditions and everything like that. But when you don't have a lot of things and stuff in the world, okay, then of course it can be a living situation, right? I mean, coming from Southern California, there are barrios and neighborhoods that quite frankly they have nothing. And when you walk into a home, there's 15 people living in the same house, and they're atrocious, but they're still people. And it doesn't mean they've done something or anything to that effect. In fact, it could be the quite opposite. Because until you know for sure, uh, then you have to follow not only what the evidence is telling you in front of you, but what your instincts are telling you through that experience. And I think this is one of these cases where, are there some, red flags? Absolutely, a lot of them. Okay? I'm not in a position right now on YouTube to throw out what those are. You'll hear as I was walking up the side of the house, muted out a conversation, and so those are the kind of things that investigators who are fluid on this case, with the pure intent of finding Summer Wells, and that's what we're trying to do: help Summer by helping her parents. And if that changes in relationship to what they may know, or somebody may have more information or done. Grandma's not on the property. The trailer was locked after we talked, confirmed those types of things. That distance between the house and the trailer is no less than probably 50 feet. And then when you come in, and you go into the house and you turn to the right, and then you go around that little bar area, and she called it a bar area because that's what Don calls it. There's a cutout there, and as you saw, it's a very narrow passageway. It's probably 2.5 feet wide, maybe a little bit wider. I mean, I'm not a small pumpkin by any stretch of the imagination, but I was able to get in there, and it was a set of staircase that went straight down. And as you come in to the left, is that basement door, and I immediately observed whether or not a child could reach up. I didn't say anything. A child could reach up and flip that lock, and I watched her open that mechanism. And I'm not convinced that a 5-year-old couldn't have done that, but I'm not convinced she did do it. So, we'll just kind of let that take its course. And then to the left there, the parents had their bed out there, and of course, you could see that the TV was running. That to me told me had been somebody there at prior to our arrival. I don't know what that means, because I know the children are out of the house, because this is 2 days post that incident, and so as a result of that, maybe other people didn't want to communicate. So then, as you saw when you look to the right, that's where the boys stay. That's where Summer's room was, and all of her toys and everything is there. And I got the sense, being across from her within a foot and a half, that she has just been reeling inside emotionally. And the other piece of me tells me she doesn't have the skill set or the coping mechanism to deal with the weight of all of this. Now, I think all of us can, guess, what that means in different ways. I have my own opinion of that. I'm not going to, lay that out here on YouTube in totality, but I think some of this could be, there's a guilt process going on here. Now, is it because she didn't watch her well enough, and this is, a crazy situation? Is it an accident? I was interested in the swing on that, out there by the tree. Could she have accidentally swung into the tree? And then I've had cases where, parents, actually panic, and as a result of that, they do stupid stuff. Could have one of the other family members been, grandma and stuff? Was there something that took place there? So, and maybe there's nothing. And so I'm going to level set again, and I hope you are level setting inside of and what I mean by that in our chat here today, and keep it classy, because I know right now that she's out at a vigil for her sister or for her daughter. Okay. And so she's signaling all the right things. And as a, you know, I don't think we know all the story yet. It's obvious. And I know we can analyze a lot of the information that's been provided. In fact, Coop and I and Dean had a great talk today. And if you don't know,
this organization, the Cold Case Foundation. Our executive director is Greg Cooper, and he ran the behavior science for the FBI for many quite a long time with John Douglas from Mindhunter. And John used to be our executive director, but he recently stepped down, and he's doing a show on Fox. But Greg and I talked for quite some time today. We analyzed this video, and we came up with some things that at some point we're going to weigh in on. But right now is not the time to do that. So with that, I see somebody's putting in here in Tennessee. We leave the TV on all the time, so there you go. That's a possibility right there, right up front. So this is when you get an opportunity. I know you're going to go back and you're going to watch this, and you guys are going to see things, that we're not, aren't obvious right up front. I thought was very interesting is Candus has a picture of her sister right there in the kitchen. Now, I don't know if she's living that, but correlate that to the statement she made down at the water's edge.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe.